What's good, guys? So I've mentioned a few times before that most of the vegan people that I come across on social media are a bunch of annoying, preachy losers, and I'm sure most of you have experienced that as well. Well, as far as my channel goes, I've really only talked about a few, which includes, of course, that vegan teacher.
What do I think of somebody who pays for the torture and of innocent animals?
That's not what they said. They said, call me Chris.
I don't think that's a
not her
very
name.
nice person.
Or Tosh Peterson.
It's the animal holocaust! This is murder! Every single product in this store is murder and animal abuse!
Vegan Gains. I've mentioned Unnatural Vegan a few times, Zana Samsonova as well, but today we're going to be talking about the vegan Jesus. Now, he doesn't call himself the vegan Jesus, but if you've never heard of Earthling Ed, you're going to understand why I call him the vegan Jesus. Because in my opinion, the persona he portrays not only makes him look like a pretentious asshole, but also somebody that thinks that they're morally superior, ethically divine, truly stands above the crowd and may as well be the messiah of the vegan universe. Because not only does he make plenty of content around veganism and how it's just ethically better than any other sort of diet, but he also has written several books on just how to shit on those nasty mouth-breathing carnists like it's child's play. Now, he's also a self-proclaimed best-selling author. Yeah, best-selling author to the few thousand vegans that purchased your book, I'm sure. But yeah, if he's a best-selling author, then I guess I am too. The Elevator Man, horror mystery story, buy it on Amazon. It's in the description. Don't support this vegan loser. Support the Curl King. He's super cool and funny and awesome. And I have a book and I'm a best-selling author, just like Earthling Ed, except better and way cooler. Now, I've stated many times that going around telling people about veganism and, how it could be good for you in certain ways, that's one thing. It becomes a whole nother issue when you try to pass it off as this just ethically superior lifestyle that everybody needs to be a part of. Otherwise, they're subhuman pieces of shit with no morals. And that's exactly what all of these people on social media that I've come across do, Earthling Ed being no exception. In fact, I think this is where a lot of current social media vegan influencers get some of their information from his books and from his teachings. And nobody's really talked about this guy in the commentary space, so I may be one of the first to do it. So welcome aboard, people, on the crazy shit train. Let's get this mother rolling. Choo choo.
Hello, good morning. It is butcher day on the homestead, and we are getting ready to butcher about 55 Cornish cross hens.
So I don't know if you guys have come across homesteading videos on social media. Homesteading has become a really popular trend across platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and these homesteaders portray this way of life as being a really simple and connected and peaceful and compassionate way of living and producing food. However, there is another side to this narrative, which I want to discuss in today's video. Now, it's easy to understand the appeal of producing your own food. However, beneath the romanticized portrayal of backyard eggs and home-raised meat is actually a dark web of incompetency, narcissism, and violence, which actually sustains the very cycles of harm that homesteaders claim they're trying to address. Now, of course, you could be a plant-based homesteader and decide not to exploit animals, but in today's video, we're going to be looking at those who would rather have more than just soil on their hands.
Yep, you got that right. Big sigh. Let it out. Let it out. I know that's what you want to do. Yes, the vegans are complaining about peaceful homesteaders now. And he's been doing this for a while. This isn't his first rodeo. This isn't the first time he's complained about peaceful homesteaders. Now, obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory, but for those of you that might not be familiar with the term homesteading, it's essentially living off of your own resources. You grow your own crops, you slaughter your own animals, you provide food for yourself, right? A simple life that a lot of people used to do like back in the 1800s, very normal. And most people nowadays agree that this is the most ethical way to source your food, whether it's your vegetables or it's your meat. And the fact of the matter is, that's just the truth. It really is. And even most vegans are like, yeah, people that are getting their meat sourced ethically are winning. you know, like good for them. But then you have these maniacal nut jobs like Earthling Ed, vegan teacher, and all of them that are even upset by this. This is somehow an immoral practice as well. It's unethical. And he'll get into why. I'll let him say his piece in this video, and then we'll give our criticism of it as it is well deserved.
Because homesteaders may talk about wanting to make sure that the animals have a nice life and a compassionate death, but humans homestead for themselves, not for the animals. They homestead because of how it makes them feel. Homesteading is also often portrayed as a rejection of the fakery, materialism of modern society. It's a return to our oh so humble and simple roots, producing food ourselves. And yet the complete irony in all of this is the privilege that often goes hand in hand with people who homestead. I mean, think about it.
First off, his complaints here are just a fat, juicy, vegan nothing burger. I'm gonna start with the whole, like, the privilege thing of being able to homestead. Yeah, you need to have money to be able to do this, but it's not something that should be looked down upon because people are showing this on social media like, hey guys, I'm a homesteader. But the difference between them and you is that they don't have this weird moral superiority complex where they're like, well, you should be homesteading. Like, what are you doing if you're not homesteading, you piece of shit, garbage, subhuman, fucking Hitler wannabe cosplay Joseph Stalin bitch? That's the difference. They're not doing that. They're just showing their life as homesteaders. That's it. And they're promoting something positive. They're promoting what truly is a more ethical treatment of animals. And I don't understand how you could see something wrong with giving these animals a good life, a longer life most of the time in comparison to factory farming, where they're free range, they're able to roam around and be able to enjoy themselves. And yes, at the end of the day, they are your food, and you're going to make sure that they end up on your plate. That's their purpose in this situation. These animals have been bred for generations to be food for humans. I had some people, I want to shout out, if I can find the comment, I'll show it, but I might not want to dig for it. But this lad in Russia here talks about how he tried to be vegan, or they, I'm not sure what they identify as, so sorry if I misgendered you, but they tried to be vegan in Russia in a village, and it was impossible. They could not get the resources that they needed. The fruits, the vegetables and stuff were stale, they were rotten, they were inedible, like non-nourishing. If this person stayed on a vegan diet, probably would be dead by now. There are so many instances all across the world where it is just not feasible. And even not just the extreme of like not being able to get the resources that you need. The majority of people need those proteins and vitamin A and other nutrients that only really come from meat, because the plant substitutes aren't sufficient for their bodies, and therefore it's like they didn't get them in the first place. You call yourself Earthling Ed, but all you give a fuck about are the animals that people eat, but clearly you don't care about the billions of animals that die just for you to get your vegetables, which we'll get into later, or your fellow fucking humans who couldn't survive without animal products.
You have to be able to own a plot of land or be able to live off a plot of land, to have the time to produce your own food, to have the financial independence to be able to do so. Most people who are living in cities and who have jobs and who have bills to pay and who have careers to fulfill do not necessarily have the desire to homestead, let alone the capability of homesteading. But it also overlooks a very simple practicality issue, which is it's just not possible to feed a growing population of people in homestead environments because homesteads are an inefficient way of producing food.
Yo, wannabe vegan Jesus, you literally just outlined one of the biggest issues with global widespread veganism. It's impractical. In so many fucking ways, it's impossible to feed everybody on this planet on a vegan diet and have the human race survive. Hey dog, we didn't get to where we are by just eating corn and carrots, okay? We didn't get these big intelligent brains by eating grass. Humans had to adapt, evolve. We had to do so much to survive the elements, to survive nature, to survive time. And for the majority of the last several 100,000 years, we've been eating meat, and for good reason. Now, I already brought up the Russia example, but there are so many countries you wouldn't even think about, like Japan, that are so heavily dependent on animal products, which includes like fish, includes cattle, you know, chickens, whatever it is, that they would just simply not be able to get by without them. Now you're over here talking about privilege and stuff, which is really ironic because you have the financial privilege to be vegan as well as the desire to be vegan. A lot of people don't have that. It is so ironic that you're using this privilege thing as a way to combat the idea of homesteading, when again, these people that are homesteading aren't saying everybody should be doing this. No, they're just showing their lives as homesteaders, and that's it. But you like to think that everybody thinks the way you do when they live a certain lifestyle, that they're trying to promote this to everybody because that's what you vegans do. But no, they're not like you. They aren't doing that, and I don't understand why that's such a difficult concept for you to grasp. And even if they were, and they were doing it in a practical way, like, hey, if you can afford it, consider growing your own, your own fruits and vegetables. Consider having your own chickens for eggs. A lot of people actually do that. They have their own chickens just for producing eggs for them. But of course, you guys see this as an enslavement as well, even though the chickens probably couldn't care less about you taking their unfertilized eggs. Hell, half the time they eat them themselves. Get your privileged, pretentious ass on somewhere and come back to reality and realize just how privileged you actually are. Do you have any idea how expensive vitamins are? My wife and I recently started taking vitamins just so that, because we're not vegan or vegetarian, but we don't eat a lot of meat either. Like, I enjoy like fish, but where I live, I don't really have access to fish, unless I want like frozen fish or fish that I don't like salmon. I mean, I don't mind it. It's just not something I really prefer. I'd rather eat something else. So I don't even really eat fish ever. And then the only meat I pretty much eat somewhat regularly is like chicken, and that's not even like every single day. And so because of that, it's wise for both of us to take supplements, which I know it sounds really ironic. You guys are like, oh my God, the Curl King's one of them. No, I'm fucking not. I just know what I need to do to be healthy, and so does she, and we do it. You know, she isn't super happy about even eating chicken. Like, she would probably be vegetarian or vegan if it made sense for her health, just because of how she feels morally towards the animals. You know, she understands that it's a necessity for her to be healthy and to live a long, healthy life, and therefore she does it out of obligation, not for her taste pleasure, not because she's some kind of immoral fucking lunatic, just because she wants to be healthy and live a long, healthy life. So she overrides that emotional feeling that she gets when it comes to meat, and she'll have chicken, and that's about it. And me, I'm somewhat similar. You know, I'm not a big fan of eating red meat. This is why I don't. It's because I personally don't like the ideas of eating cows. I don't mind that other people do it at all, especially if they're being mindful about their health or if it's just a good food source for them. Perfectly fine to me. Now, I draw the line in some places. Like, I personally feel like people shouldn't eat octopus, but that's just because of how intelligent they are, and a lot of people don't know it. And I felt like even if they did know, they probably wouldn't care still. But even then, if I go to a seafood restaurant, I see somebody eating octopus, I'm not gonna be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, you immoral piece of shit that's worse than Hitler and Joseph Stalin and Jeffery Dahmer combined. Fuck you, asshole, immoral bitch. Like, I don't do that. I just ignore it and move on with my life because it's none of my fucking business. But you goddamn vegans think you're just so morally superior that even when there's people peacefully homesteading, providing food for themselves, you have to somehow find an issue with it. It's truly incredible and remarkable.
99% of the chickens that are raised for meat here in the United States are factory farm chickens. So when you ask me how we can do it, when you go to the grocery store, that's what you are supporting.
One of the most obvious and clear problems related with animal-based homesteading is the flawed logic that these people use to ethically justify what they're doing to animals. Just because it's possible to do something in a less harmful way does not therefore ethically justify what it is that you're doing. I mean, there are a variety of ways that one could traffic humans, but just because you could traffic humans in a less harmful way does not make that form of human trafficking morally justified. You're still doing the fundamentally immoral thing.
Let me use his logic against him for a second here. Let me get into character real quick. Ah, yes. Just because you could do something in a more ethical way doesn't make the whole thing ethical. But in my case, since I only eat grass, that it shouldn't matter. Billions of animals die to fertilize the crops that I consume on a daily basis. But I'd be dead wrong, you see. Just because it's incidental death through pesticides, culling of wild boars that eat the crops, it is still murder at the end of the day. Therefore, the plants that I consume still contribute to the deaths deaths of billions of animals, though not directly, but it is still morally wrong and evil. Therefore, I should just drink water and survive off sunlight as the plants do. Yeah, that's your logic, Earthling idiot. Because even though you guys like to pretend that there aren't billions of animals dying for your crops that you eat, they still are. But your logic is, I've seen this before, that it's incidental death, so it doesn't matter, it's not a big deal. No, yes it is. Because what you just said, just because it's more ethical, it doesn't change the underlying principle that it's still killing animals, right? Which is the big problem. And they use this little example of trafficking humans. Again, we are not about to compare trafficking humans to cows being killed for food, to bees being exterminated for you to grow crops like almonds and fucking avocados. Because if you want your logic to be consistent, then all of these things need to be equal, but you can't cut out, just because you want to, that part about billions of animals dying because of incidental deaths. Okay, what about the wild boar that are being shot so your corn can get to your dinner plate? Now, unless you are growing your own crops on land that has never been inhabited by any animals, you don't evict any creatures, nothing, you don't use any pesticides, and you kill nothing, then you are not being ethical either. Unless there are absolutely zero animals dying for your food consumption, then you are not being ethical either by your bitch ass logic. But Cow King, no, but nothing, shut the fuck up. Listen, you can have your opinion and eat it too, but shut the fuck up.
So just because pigs and chickens might have more space in a homestead environment does not therefore ethically justify exploiting and killing these animals. These people are not begrudgingly raising and killing animals. They're not just distraught that they are having to slaughter animals, but doing so because it's the most compassionate and ethical thing to do. They're not stuck in this moral bind where they're going, oh, I really hate homesteading, but it's the right thing to do ethically. No, that's not what's happening here. These people are not taking a principled stand against factory farming by slaughtering animals directly themselves. And this is what's really, really deceptive and manipulative about homesteading. It frames this way of life, or these people frame this way of living as being some sort of altruistic and benevolent thing. That they frame themselves as these caregivers to animals who are operating in these incredibly principled ways and doing so because of the goodness of their own heart.
All right, guys, this video is getting kind of long, and I'm sure you can only handle so much of Earthling superiority complex wannabe Jesus at a time. So I will be giving you a break shortly, and there will be a part 2, but let me finalize my thoughts a little bit. This is the same thing I say to vegan teachers. Like, have you ever looked in a mirror and said these words? Because I feel like you need to have these words said right back at you for you to realize something important, that this is exactly what you do on a daily basis, you morally superior piece of shit dumbass. The fact of the matter is, somebody choosing to not partake in factory farming and ethically sourcing their own meats themselves is a good thing. They are absolutely correct. It's not like they're trying to portray some false narrative like you guys do every single day. This is reality. This is the truth. Because the fact of the matter is, we are omnivores. It is necessary for us to have animal products, for us to have a couple bites of chicken a couple times a week. Because I've already pointed this out before, vitamin A that you get from plants is a different nutrient that has to be converted into vitamin A, and not everybody's body can take that converted nutrient and use it efficiently. So most people that are on a plant-based diet aren't actually getting vitamin A in their system at all. Then there's B12, which comes really only from animals. I know there's the whole like, it's from a bacteria that the animals consume or blah, blah, blah. Yes, that is very true. But even the synthetic or synthesized B12 requires animal products to create. So those that are eating it through supplements are still consuming animal products. So if you want to be truly vegan, you can't take your B12 supplements. Sorry. And if you don't do that, you end up like a crazy lunatic like all of these people. So I don't recommend that. And not just that, but some people don't even digest animal proteins as well. Their bodies can't use them to the efficiency that they could use animal proteins. And then they end up malnourished. No matter what you guys want to believe, no matter how much you try to fight tooth and nail that people don't need animal products, you're wrong. And that's why all of you guys are such fucking lunatics. Some people are fortunate enough to be able to get by on a vegan diet for a while. A lot of nutritionists say that yeah, people at certain age groups that aren't experiencing certain things in their life, like they're not pregnant, not breastfeeding, they're not athletes, they're not a bunch of different things, yeah, you probably get by on a vegan diet for a certain amount of years before it actually starts to really affect them in a negative way. That's just the fact. You guys can deny and deflect and ignore these fundamental truths all day long, but there's a reason that only less than 1% of the world is vegan. Have you thought about that? You're in the wrong. You can take all that moral superiority bullshit and shove it right up your vegan asshole.